All right, Blair Huddy, welcome to the Comms Futurist Podcast. It's so good to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me, Natalie. It's so great to meet you.
Yes, you too. I have seen you on LinkedIn for a while now, and that's definitely something I want to talk about as we dive into today's conversation, is kind of how you've built your personal brand on LinkedIn. But I would love to start the conversation with you telling the audience a little bit about yourself and your career and kind of what has brought you to this moment.
Yeah. Oh man, what a journey.
Yeah.
What a ride it has been. Um, so I went to school for advertising. I went to the University of Phoenix. So I was born and raised in Southern California. And as a part of like the curriculum for advertising and marketing, you take communications classes. And that was what really stuck with me, comms, PR, like all things kind of like media journalism. That was sort of like what I really fell in love with. And so I wanted to take more of that. I also really loved like English in high school. And later on in life, I discovered that I'm on the autism spectrum, and I struggled with communications as like a young girl growing up. And so it became a hyper focus of mine, and like learning how other people communicate and like silent communication just became a real like focus of mine. And so I fell in love with all things communications. And so when I decided to go back to school to get my master's, I went to USC for a master's in communication management. And it was an amazing program. And then my first kind of like major role was the communications manager at Universal Music Group for their IT department.
Mm.
And that sounds really weird, but for an organization of that size, like the business itself, like they don't actually realize that they have an IT department. So
Mm.
you've got like thousands, like hundreds of thousands of employees all over the world that don't realize that they can just like call IT for help. So like they are actively like they'll just like go to the store and like buy their own computer or like buy their own printer and then like expense it back to the company without calling IT that then can like ship them those things, right? So they brought me in to actually communicate to the business that one, you have an IT department, but two, like lead comms initiatives. But at the time, I was then in a really bad car accident.
Mm.
And I didn't know at the time, but I wound up getting a traumatic brain injury from that car accident. And so I took a leave of absence, a paid leave of absence, and then was let go, or,
Mhm.
we parted ways kind of amicably, and took on a contract role from there, and then was recruited to a company called International SOS. And I was brought in to lead marketing and communications for their West Coast. And International SOS is the company that you've heard of that you've never heard of.
Okay.
They are a global health travel organization for companies that have business travelers. During my time at the organization, I was working on projects with the likes of Google, Apple, Oracle. They were still Facebook at the time, Salesforce, Visa, just like all kinds of amazing organizations on internal and external communications projects to let them know that the employees know that they have this amazing feature as a part of being an employee of this organization. But also, International SOS has relationships with 99 embassies all over the world, and they had relationships with the United Nations. And the United Nations at the time was developing their sustainable development goals, their 17 sustainable development goals, which were these 17 goals that they developed that they said, if we can meet or exceed these goals, these 17 goals by 2030, we have a chance of maintaining a healthy, livable world for all of us.
Sure.
Uh, and staying underneath this threshold, this temperature threshold, which if we exceed this temperature threshold, we're not sure what Mother Nature will throw at us, and we're not sure that we can survive it.
Mhm.
And they were looking for somebody to kind of raise their hand and say, I will take on this project and help the United Nations sort of communicate these 17 sustainable development goals to the Fortune 500. And I went, this is a no-brainer. And that was a light bulb moment for me. That changed the trajectory of my career, because it was the moment that I realized that I could do, like, I don't know if you feel this way or if others will feel this way, but like a lot of comms and marketing is a lot of just kind of like click clacking at your desk. Like
Yes.
it's a lot of like
Yes.
emails and like just like typing on a computer.
Oh, yes.
Like when I got into it because I wanted to like help people do things and like work on really cool projects and stuff like that. And this light bulb moment for me was the moment when I realized that I could do my click clacking and do something more for the world, really make an impact. And I went like, no brainer. This is it. This is my moment. And so I got to work with the United Nations, develop these really amazing relationships with people at the UN, which I still have those relationships today. It's incredible. And I got to be a part of writing the sustainability reports during the time that I was there for these companies and sort of help them understand how to map a lot of what they were already doing to these sustainable development goals. So at International SOS, I was sort of running that and PR and media for the Americas,
Mhm.
which was amazing. But there was this sort of global organization, and I was ready for more. And so I was recruited to lead marketing as a whole and marketing and comms for an affordable housing organization out of Los Angeles. And I thought affordable housing, like that's right, it's still right up my alley. Like, of course, this is a no
Yeah.
brainer. But in the 2.5 years that I was there, I took them from 7 billion to 9 billion. Now, it wasn't just me, but I had a part
Right.
in, rebranding the organization, building out their entire marketing function, hiring a PR team, building out a marketing team, a design team, a communications function, internal and external. And then when I wound up giving notice, I I cannot believe this happened, but my boss actually he said, "Hold that thought." And then about an hour later, he called me and said, "Whatever you're doing, we're a client." And so
Mhm.
as a consultant, I actually led them through an acquisition, at least on the Marcom side, for over $700 million. So I
Wow.
like to think that like at least the brand work and like I think that had a part
Of
in their
course.
sale for $700 million.
Yeah. So you put in your notice saying, "I wanna go off on my own," and
Yeah.
they were like, "Hold on, great, but we wanna be your client." Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And, so we started working from home in the pandemic, and I think you probably remember this. It was just gonna be, like, 2 weeks in March. Everybody
Yep.
was like, "It's just gonna be 2 weeks in March. Don't, like, get too comfortable." And so I was
Mhm.
like, "Okay, I'm just gonna work from my kitchen table. It'll be fine." And then it was, like, May, and I was still working from my kitchen table, and I was like, "I can't do this anymore. If I have to, like, work where I eat, I am
Mhm.
gonna go crazy." And it had an old desk that I just never built. And I wound up, we had in the apartment complex that I lived in, we had a Facebook group because there were like 26 buildings.
Mhm.
And I wound up like just asking the Facebook group, is there anybody that's willing to help me build a desk? Like, we'll pay you in like drinks and pizza.
Yep.
And one of the guys was like, yeah, sure, happy to help. Showed up the next day. I was wearing matching pajamas with my dog, and he's now my husband.
Oh my god.
And
Wait, that's incredible.
yeah, and he's an entrepreneur, and after meeting, he was like, you're too good at this to be making so much money for other people and not getting a part of that yourself. So you
Mhm.
should go out on your own." And quite frankly, I was like, no thanks. Like, I have a very stable, very cushy 6-figure paycheck with a very nice bonus every year.
Mhm.
I'm gonna keep that. And then the back to office email came, and I could not let go of the freedom that working from home came with. And I could not go back to looking at the same 4 cement walls every day
Yep.
for 9 hours. I just couldn't do it. And I looked at he was, I think, my fiance at the time. And I was like, I don't think I could do this. And he was like, well, I want you to quit your job. And so I remember like I was on the phone with my boss, and like, so like my computer's like this. He was like on the other side of my computer holding my foot because I was like shaking and so
Oh.
scared.
Yeah.
And I gave them 30 days notice, and they came back and said, whatever you're doing, we're a client. And they were a client until they were acquired. And when they were acquired, they were acquired by a huge, massive company, and they already had an internal comms team and a PR firm and all that. So we parted ways amicably, but I'm still in touch with a lot of people that work there, and that was the start of my freelance career.
Wow, wow, wow. That is such an interesting story, and I find it interesting that it was someone kind of outside of you who was kind of, putting that bug in your ear, like, oh, maybe you should go off on your own. And that really kind of changed the trajectory of things for you. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I would not have done it on my own. I would not have made that leap. I really wouldn't have.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what has your entrepreneurial journey looked like? Can you kind of, as one myself, I can understand that there are ups and downs to it, and I'd
I was
love to
just
kind of
gonna
hear
say
about that. Yeah.
I was just gonna say ups and downs. We went from 0 to 60 really fast.
Mhm.
So when I kind of I've always been very active on LinkedIn. I was a
Mhm.
power user from the start. I don't know what it was about LinkedIn for me. It just clicked.
Mhm.
But when I kind of I changed my little thing on LinkedIn that was like self-employed and like just people came out of the woodwork and they were like, I want to work with you. And so we went from, it was just me and my husband at the time, was working on his own project. So my husband is, he and I co-own the business now, but we did not own the business then.
Okay.
So he is an immigrant.
Mhm.
And so at the time he was on a very specific visa. He is a green card holder now. But so at the time he was only able to work on very, very specific projects.
Sure.
Um, and so it was just me, and we went from just me, and within 6 months, it was 25 people, 40 clients, millions of dollars in revenue, and projects and budgets. And I mean, it was madness and chaos. And I knew only how to run a marketing department. I did not
Wow.
know how to run a marketing department and a business and be IT and be finance and be
Mhm.
HR and be like it was I there were leaks in every crack
Mhm.
of every aspect of the business, and I did not know how to plug them. I didn't know that they were there. I didn't like
Mhm.
it was it was a mess and, like, the best because we were working on amazing projects with amazing people, but it was we grew way too fast, and I
Wow.
just had no idea what I was doing in this I knew exactly what I was doing on the projects. I
Right.
just didn't know what I was doing in the business.
Mhm.
And so, like, looking back, I would have slowed way down and said no to a lot more. And there are things that I look back on now, like, I said yes to a lot of like net 30 or net 60 terms. That makes like total sense for like a really established business. That makes no sense for, a
Yes.
consultant. So like now I'm very strict on like net 7 terms, paid up front, like,
Yep.
like stuff like that. And then, like, if I am working and consulting for an organization, I almost never hire internally now anymore. The company that I am consulting for will hire for that role. And like I will write you the job description. I will help you hire that person, but you are hiring that person. I am not hiring that person.
Sure.
So there are a lot of mistakes that I made along the way, unless I am hiring for within my agency.
Sure.
Um, that I don't hire that person. So those are the types of things that I just like had to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
Um,
How many
I think
full-time employees do you have now?
just one right now.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
But I mean, we had at one stage 25.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's full-time employees. You had 25.
Well,
That's
they were
wild.
consultants,
Sure, sure, sure,
but
sure. Yeah, yeah.
they were working on projects with us full time. Yeah.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was massive.
Wow. So it kind of it it hit that point where it was like, "Whoa, this is a lot," and you kind of learned these lessons, and where do you find yourself now in the business? What do things look like?
Things look very different. We have 3 clients and
Mhm.
1, part-time consultant, and that is only because I unfortunately, I became very ill this year, and I shared quite a bit of my health experience on LinkedIn this year. I still don't have a full picture of what happened. I know a little bit about what happened, But I still don't have all the pieces of the puzzle just yet. I have test results that have given me a little bit of a map,
Mm,
but I'm still kind of dealing with things in real time.
mm.
So I have honestly taken quite a bit of a step back from the business. And then an opportunity presented itself very recently,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, which we can get into. And it was just, I just like, could not pass it up. And they were just kind of like, we have to have you, and it has to be
Wow.
you. Um, so
How'd they
that
find you? Had they worked with you? Was it through LinkedIn? What?
it was through my husband.
Okay, amazing.
So yeah. Um, so that will be its own kind of challenge, and they're more than willing to sort of work within my boundaries, which is
Mhm.
great. But things today look very different. When I got sick in March, we had a dozen clients and 5 employees, and we were hiring.
Mm.
And in April, we had to let everybody but one person go.
Mm. Wow.
Um, which was an excruciatingly painful decision to make. But I was in the hospital on March 10th, and by like March 17th, the majority of our clients gave notice because I had to give notice to our clients to say, I'm taking a step back. I was in the cardiac unit of the hospital. Um, and their feedback to us was, if we're not going to be working with Blair, we don't want to work with, we don't want to work with you. So it's a challenge, and not something
Yeah.
that we expected. And it was not the stress that I needed to be a week out of the hospital and then lose my business on top of it.
Yep.
Um, but we've had a couple clients kind of, stick with us. 3 clients stick with us.
Mhm.
Um, and and I'm really grateful for that, because that's kept a roof over our heads.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Thank you for sharing all of that. It's interesting. I think I hear people talk about entrepreneurship all the time as, oh, there's this freedom to it. And, you get to kind of build your calendar. And yes, you grind all the time, but you can kind of, choose when you go for a walk or eat lunch or have dinner with your kids or whatever it might be, right? Um, but I think something that isn't talked about as much is how quickly it can go from either 0 to 60 or 60 to 3, right? And there's real risk involved with that, right? And I just think that's an interesting piece of your story is, and really like this idea of building a personal brand and a business behind you as a person, that there's risk in that, right? And I think it sounds like on the one hand it made you super successful, and then it's like, shoot, I can't operate in the business right now on a day-to-day basis, and now what? Like that was the expectation, and now what, right?
yeah. Yeah, and my husband had to step in and take over the reins, and then, to get that kind of gut punch, and luckily he was able to, because he had gotten his green card, but to get that gut punch of, clients saying, "Well, if we're not gonna be working with Blair, we don't wanna work with you guys at all." That's kind of a hit to, the entire team, because they're a phenomenal team. And that's actually the second time that that's happened. So back in 2022, so we got married on July 7th, 2022, and July 10th, I had at what at the time we thought was a stroke.
Wow.
And looking back, I don't actually know what it was. I know now that I had natural gas poisoning. We had a gas leak in the apartment that we lived in.
What? Oh my God. Okay.
And so that actually was the first time that because we ran our own business, I got sick the first time and landed myself in the hospital 3 days after the wedding.
Wow.
And interestingly enough, so I knew I was planning, because we were planning on, taking a little break, maybe going on a honeymoon. So I hired somebody to oversee the business. while we took that break.
Mm.
And that person saw an opportunity and went, Blair's lying in a hospital bed. I'm going to have all of their clients move their client contracts under my brand new LLC.
Oh my God.
So we walked out of the hospital with nothing and like a whole bunch of contracts with like consultants and like people that we owed money to because they had done work under our business,
Right.
and clients that were now paying their bills to him instead of us.
My God.
So I
Whoa.
paid everybody on credit cards and filed for bankruptcy and started over.
Wow.
So like people will always tell you sorry to get like really real.
No,
uh,
this is, yeah. I mean, right. People
People,
don't talk about this stuff.
they don't. They will
Hmm.
tell you the good about entrepreneurship, and it gets really good. Like we made multiples more than I ever made at a salaried job.
Hmm.
But with high risk comes high reward, like high risk, high reward, but like high risk.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow. That is a really wild ride. And yeah, people just don't talk about the downsides of it and the risks in that way. And again, it's like it's all these things that entrepreneurship can do for us, but what can it take, you know? And yeah, it's a high risk situation. Wow.
Yeah.
Um well, I would love to hear about kind of where you find yourself now doing
Yeah.
some work on your own and some
Yeah.
work I think in-house. I'd love to kind of
Yeah.
understand that balance.
Yeah. So I'm still working on a couple projects on my own, mostly because we find ourselves in a like a mission-based kind of work mode. I just can't let go of the orgs and their missions. They're
Yeah.
just they're just too good for me. Um, and when I met my husband, he is very much in love with the game of golf.
Mhm.
And I fell in love with the game of golf. Less playing, mostly watching.
Mhm.
Um, and so there's a company called Pantheon, and they reached out and they were looking for a chief communications officer, and they have really ambitious expansion plans over the next 2 years globally, and they are a uh, simulator, an exclusive ultra high net worth luxury simulator club that has in-person events for people who have at-home simulators.
Okay. Okay.
But they will do in-person events, and by events I mean competitions,
Mhm.
at some of the most exclusive clubs in the world. There's so much more to it. They will have the Pantheon Journal, which will be a publication that they release. They'll have exclusive, merchandise and all kinds of other stuff. Um, and so it's brand new as of like this week.
Wow. Wow.
So I will be what I like to say is just putting on an additional hat
Mm.
um, as their chief communications officer. So that's brand new. We just announced that, and that's really exciting. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to sort of lead them through their comms and what I love about that is it kind of marries golf is a very traditional game. It's a very traditional sport. It's a very
Mm.
traditional industry. But it's also become and like in the pandemic kind of exploded because
Mhm.
like people needed stuff to do outside. But it's also taken on this whole new life in the digital era because of simulators and people increasingly having at-home simulators or simulator bars or the popularity of Top Golf. And I don't know about where are you based?
Kansas City.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Missouri or Kansas?
I'm on the Kansas side. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
There's
So
a
you're right next to it.
Topgolf. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Mhm.
I don't know about where you are, but there are just like simulator bars popping up everywhere in the
Yep.
Denver area
Yep.
that are not Top Golf related.
Yep.
Um, and so I think like simulator experiences are becoming more and more popular, and I think that's just going to expand to at home. Um, and so this kind of marries both the like that like traditional kind of luxury um, with the like popularity of the simulator experience. So I'm really, really excited about it.
I'd love to talk to you about LinkedIn because you have over 18,000 followers,
Yeah.
and that's significant, right? And so, I mean, you said you were an early adopter, an early super user. I'm really curious what LinkedIn has done for you and how you've approached it.
Yeah. Um, my approach has always been what I like to call the ABCs, which is just always be connecting.
Mm,
If I have just met you, or I am going to be meeting with you, or I think I might meet you at some stage, or we have more than 50 people in common, or we live in the
yep,
same city, or
yep, yep.
like I am going to connect with you.
Hmm.
That is my like that is the name of the game for me. I am just like a connector on LinkedIn. Um so that has always been like number 1 and number 2, um I was always a poster at first.
Mm,
And so I think that like posting in groups, posting just like whatever I wanted to at first, because it was the wild, wild west when it was first starting.
sure.
So it was kind of like on Instagram where you could just like post your food and be like, hey, LinkedIn, like here's what I'm
Yeah,
having for lunch.
yeah.
Um, but interestingly, when I was at International SOS, they were actually looking, so they were still building out Sales Navigator, and they were looking for people who were supporting more than 180 salespeople in the United States to help them build out Sales Navigator, because they were looking for people who were kind of in the trenches. And so I was actually on the team that helped them build out Sales Navigator and the functionality.
Wow,
And now I
cool.
teach people to not use Sales Navigator, like how to use
Mm,
the core functions within the tool, um, because it's such a powerful tool on its own. When you're looking for a person at a company, um, it is an incredibly powerful base tool on its own.
mhm,
The filters are incredibly robust, much more robust today than they have ever been. The core features, whether it's groups, newsletters, um, like they have a lot of attention from the platform right now. The algorithm is wonky simply
sure.
because so when Microsoft bought OpenAI, they moved a lot of resources. And when I say resources, I mean 2 things. 1, data computing power, and 2, physical butts and chairs. So actual human resources from LinkedIn over to OpenAI, because
Mm,
Microsoft owns both companies.
sure.
So the algorithm is wonky, because they have less people working for them, and they have less data computing power than they did back before Microsoft owned OpenAI. But 2, LinkedIn is the only social media platform where that I know of where there is no like in-platform mechanism for two-way communication. So I can't just like reach out to LinkedIn on LinkedIn and be like, "Hey, can I have this feature? Can I have this like this bug fix? Can I like anything?"
Yeah.
There's also no creator rewards. There's no like on TikTok, I have I think almost 38,000 followers.
Mhm,
So I'm a part of the creator fund. I
mhm,
get no rewards for my efforts on LinkedIn.
mhm.
I think I'm closing in on 5 million impressions this year on LinkedIn. Like on TikTok, I get paid for that.
Yeah,
And on TikTok, it's good money.
yeah.
Um, so there are things like that that are missing from LinkedIn that I wish we had, but there are things happening culturally on LinkedIn that are really significant. One, they are heavily prioritizing comments, and
Mm,
it
mm.
shows. Um,
Yes.
more than ever, more and more activities happening in the comments. So they're deprioritizing the amount of posts that you need per week to be effective on the platform. They went from, I think, was like 5 times a week to now, like, you can post less than 4 times a week and still get traction on the platform, and that is you can see that as a result of you're seeing, like, a post that's 3 weeks old in your feed,
Yes.
right? So, that's a result of that.
Yep.
But the conversations that are happening in the comments, I would liken it to the conversations that happen in the comments of TikTok. Right, which I've, like was, like, craving on LinkedIn because, like, the comments of TikTok are arguably the best part of TikTok sometimes.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's becoming the best part of LinkedIn. And there are creators, and sometimes I like to think of myself as one of them on LinkedIn, where, like, the personality of the creator is kind of like the best part, where like they don't I don't always talk about marketing or comms. And
Yeah.
in fact, like my posts about marketing or comms almost never do the best.
Yeah.
It's my like really either storytelling or like really zany or like trying to make a TikTok trend relevant on LinkedIn. Those are the ones that do the best.
Yes.
Um, and or like I've had comments go really, really viral. And then I had like LinkedIn comment on a post, like the LinkedIn corporate account, and then I had a comment from the Slack corporate account, and that comment went viral.
Wow.
So it's stuff like that where like there's activity happening in more areas of the platform that are not just posts. So what I would say to people for LinkedIn is when the platform started, you had to be a poster. Now that means next to nothing. Like you don't have to post every day. Just log in once a day and like comment on stuff and you'll start to see traction
Yep.
like way more than like and like I don't have a content calendar. I open the app and like post freely whatever I want.
Yep.
Like it doesn't have
Totally.
to be this like really structured thing. And I think I posted about this. I think it might have been last week or the week before where it was like sometimes it's really not that serious. Sometimes I'll like something because I'll be the 111th like, and sometimes I just want to see 111 in my feed. Like sometimes that's all it's about.
Yes, right. Totally. No, I love that. Yeah, I do LinkedIn workshops for executive teams
Cool.
on how to show up as themselves as individuals, but really to support the business priorities. And it's really, really wild to see the psychological barriers in place for people to even get them to consider liking something on LinkedIn, let alone commenting, let alone posting. And I have been quite pleased to see also in my experience that commenting really goes a long way. And I think it's a more accessible way for people to show up and at least get started before going full-fledged posting multiple times a week. And I agree, it makes a platform more fun in a lot of ways. It's been really a pleasure talking to you, Blair, and just hearing about your career and background and everything. And yeah, what are you excited about over the next year?
Um, I'm excited about the future. I spent, just candidly, I spent quite a bit of time this year looking back
Mm,
because of my health. I spend a lot of time looking back and wishing that I had made different decisions in relation to my health. And so for the first time, I've sort of come to terms with the fact that I can't go back.
mm,
And right, so like because of the decisions that I made in relation to my health, we had to let people go and we lost clients. And I spent a lot of time ruminating on that.
sure.
Um, and so for the first time, I've kind of come to terms with that and going like, okay, I have to look forward. And so I'm very much looking forward to the future and what that holds. Pantheon is expanding, and so I think that with that I will expand.
Yeah.
And I think that my capacity for good things will expand. So I'm looking forward to good things, and making like letting go of challenges to make way for more good things to happen
Mm,
in my life and for other people. This has been a really challenging year for a lot of people in a lot of ways. There's a lot of heaviness around all of us.
yep.
Um, and so I'm looking forward to personally and professionally making space for a lot of lightness and more positivity. But also like just kind of wishing that for everybody else as well. And I hope that everybody kind of takes a minute to just kind of, take a beat and make space, even if it's just a minute a day for a little bit more lightness in their day. I am also really looking forward to how we think about communications in the face of AI and how quickly new technologies are changing everything
Yep.
and the way we communicate with each other, because I think AI as a technology is forcing us to to look at that.
Yeah.
Um, because I think at first it was like, this is going to solve all our problems. And then it was like, whoa, wait, this is creating far more problems than we thought.
Yeah, totally.
So I am looking forward to I also think that it has forced people to, whether they like it or not, um, develop a bit more, I don't wanna say respect, but appreciation for the art of communication,
Yep, I would agree.
um, and how much goes into it and how good you have to be at it, simply for if for no other reason than the art of prompt generation is the art of communication, because you have to communicate with a machine,
Yep.
and if you can't communicate with a machine, you can't communicate with other people.
Yes. Yep. We are uniquely well suited to use AI
Yeah.
really well. Yeah.
Communicators are fantastic prompt generators.
Yep.
And so I'm really looking forward to that, and seeing how that develops and seeing where that kind of takes us.
Mhm.
I am looking forward to the eventual switching of AI doing creativity for us to doing the menial tasks that we don't want to do.
Yep. Totally,
And
which we
that
get
will
bogged
happen.
down by a lot, I would say, to your point earlier of, like, the tick click clacking on a keyboard
Yeah.
and all that. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm looking forward to making more space for more creativity.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. Well, Blair, it was such a pleasure talking to you, and I appreciate you sharing your story with us, and, yeah, it's really been a blast to talk to you, follow you, and I'll continue to see where you go, and I'm really excited for you, and what a great intention for the new year about kind of looking towards the future. I think that's great.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been really fun.